Okay. So first, let me introduce you. Uh, I know you for a long time, I think 9 years,
Yeah.
but for the people, you are PhD in neuropsychology, right?
Yes, clinical psychology and neuropsychology.
And you, I don't know how to say that you can help me. You create the Lego-based therapy, discover the Lego-based therapy. I prefer the second term, but let me know you what what is.
Yeah, I mean, I would think I kind of discovered um, the interest in Lego and ran with the opportunity that was created by the kids to facilitate um, their engagement with this play material in a way that they wouldn't really be interested in doing with other play materials.
Okay, okay.
So there was something unique about Lego that allowed a shared interest in collaboration. I think it was also important that Lego has this particular um, format where pieces, small pieces,
Mm-hmm.
go together. So there's lots of opportunities to talk and share in the achievement of each little step. But it also kind of mirrors the process of developing relationships, which are little interactions that combined form, a larger relationship.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When I start in Leo-based therapy here in Argentina, there is nothing about that. Doesn't have a book in Spanish, only your books in English. And the first one, I think the second one learned after the course I take here, and it was magical seeing the guys starting to collaborate, creating a different model of Lego. And the first time it was whoa. The guys come so happy, so high with energy to play and to meet another friends. I think that's the important about the Lego club or the Lego based therapy that uh, brings opportunity to meet each other, like me. Yes, I think you always say this quote about the two guys the first time that met in in your place that saying, Dan, this guy is from my planet. That's the importance to being identified with each other.
Yeah. Well, that was a part of their interest in Lego and other shared interests that they had, which were not typical. And they could tell something about the way the other person expressed emotions, their facial expressions, their body language, that they were not typical kids. And so they seemed to identify more with each other. So identification is an important first step in um, forming attachments, but also in deciding to model,
Hmm.
imitate, share accomplishments, like establishing a relationship, but also learning from each other.
Okay, yeah, it's true. Dan, how could you explain Leo-based therapy in a concise way?
It's essentially a peer mediated, child led group therapy that is, I mean, it has a balance of structure and flexibility. So even though there is a core structure, the children still learn according to their own interests, which is made possible by the Lego materials, which can become anything that the child is interested in. Um, but it is Lego. You can't just bring in any other interest, but you can take your interests and bring them to Lego Club, and then express them through the medium of Lego. So there is this stable structure about the group. It has levels that kids work through, like many things, like educational
Mm,
system, like their video games. They have levels that you
yeah.
work up, to a higher level. Uh, and but it's flexible. You don't have a lockstep progress. You
Mm,
don't have to have adult specified goals.
mhm,
The goal overall is really determined by the children. And that's the most important part is that it's their decision to get better at both Lego and interpersonal relationships.
mm,
They see the value of improving their social skills because they want to have a better relationship with kids
mm,
that they identify with.
yeah. Nice. It was so good. The explanation you bring about Leo-based therapy. And how do autistic individuals benefit from Leo-based therapy?
Well, yeah, I mean that was the interesting part. Early on, I started Lego-based therapy
Mhm,
simply because the kids were interested in it. It seemed like an opportunity to get them to interact with each other in a sustained way. But it was um, a, after a few years, maybe a couple of years, I decided I uh, should validate the methodology by collecting data.
mm,
And I wanted to see not just were they doing better in the Lego club, which seemed important for the treatment or for the group
mm,
to continue, but it was even more important to see whether this was having a benefit for them outside of Lego club, like at school. So that's when we collected the data for the first study, and I was able to get some time to analyze the data and write it up and publish the first study in 2004. So some people think that Lego Club kind of started in early 2000s, but it didn't. It started in the 1990s. And it wasn't until 2004 that I was able to get, um, the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders to publish the first study. But that study showed some very interesting and pretty significant findings in terms of
mm,
how much children benefited in terms of their relationships with peers, their ability to maintain interactions with peers on the playground, at school, and not just in Lego Club. So, it was a really strong finding of generalization. These were
mhm,
kids who are now
mhm,
interacting much more with their peers at school as a result of having this experience at my office.
yeah. Today,
And of course, subsequent to that, there was a follow-up study, a couple of years later that was
yeah.
a 3-year follow-up study. So it was a longer term outcome study. And then there have been a number of replication studies. Most notably, it was Gina Owens,
Mm,
who's now Gina Gomez de la Cuesta, and Simon Baron Cohen, and some others who published a study in 2008, which was a replication of my work
mhm,
at Cambridge University. And then there have been a number of replication studies since then, relatively small. And then there's currently two studies coming out, one from Pisa, Italy, and one from Mexico City.
mhm,
The Mexico City paper is done, it's being sent off to publication. And again, they're studies looking at objective measures of
mhm,
benefit from participation in this therapy. And I think it's important to people considering Lego-based therapy that you're really talking about a commitment of like one session a week,
mm,
1 hour a week,
yeah,
not multiple daily sessions or anything.
yeah.
This is not an intensive intervention.
Mhm.
This is a really minimal kind of intervention, relatively inexpensive. I mean, Lego's expensive, but
Yeah,
that's pocket
that's
change
all.
compared to labor costs and bricks and mortar, time and energy and space.
Yeah.
And, so in the context of the bigger expenses of therapy, that's not, Lego's not a consideration really. But the cost of the therapy in terms of the amount of time And then the benefit in terms of
Mm-hmm.
impact on social development is it's big.
Then there is a question here in Argentina when I bring talks to the people. They ask me that Leo Club has to be short duration of year duration. I always say that Leo Club is like another club is for all the year. It's not 10 meets about Lego Club and end because I think is opposite about the theory of Lego Club, the opportunity to have a place where I belong, where I being recognized and can meet with another one that is like me.
Yeah, I think for research purposes, or if there are financial constraints, there may be reasons to keep it brief. Like some,
Okay.
people would not be able to sustain Lego Club for
Mm-hmm.
very long because they have to pay the staff, they need the space. Um, Other times they want to, do a research study where you're going to collect data for X amount of time,
Yeah.
X number of sessions. Does it have a benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think as long as children are showing significant
Mm-hmm.
benefit and it is relatively inexpensive, then the cost benefit ratio is worth it. You might as well, sustain it. And certainly one of the things that's come up over the years for me is that social functioning or social competence with peers is a moving target. It changes over time. So children are expected to interact and engage with their peers in a certain way in certain contexts when they're you know preschool and early elementary years, and then you know middle of elementary and middle school. It changes dramatically. So quite often it seems that kids will come for a period of time, they'll get up to a level of functioning where they don't really seem to need it as much. They may drift off, do their own
Mm-hmm.
things, find ways of engaging with peers on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of times, they don't come back. They're just like, okay, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And they learn from their peers and they're fine. And I hear from those kids many years later and
Mm-hmm.
they're normal. Like they're good.
Hmm.
They don't really need Lego therapy. They don't need any kind of therapy.
Okay.
But other kids, things will happen like sexual development or
Hmm.
complexities of, middle school or high school
Hmm.
where there's more complex social communication going on,
Hmm.
or demand for nuanced language like
Hmm.
sarcasm, things like that.
Hmm.
And then their parents will bring them back and say, okay, we need some more help.
I think you are talking about adolescence. They change from childhood to adolescence. It's
Yes.
pretty common. Okay. Uh, do only autistic individuals benefit from this approach?
Well, my initial research was focused on autism spectrum because that was the population that I was trying to have an impact on mostly. Because there really wasn't, as you said, there wasn't a lot written,
Mm,
especially when I started Lego Club in the 1990s.
mm,
Asperger's was a new diagnosis in 1994. No one had really done much clinical research on it. Over the years, though, we found that um, people have been interested in using this methodology with different populations and even improving social development in typical kids.
mm,
So during COVID, there was a lot of downtime for kids. They didn't get to socialize as much. Sometimes children are hospitalized for medical reasons.
mm,
Um, a lot of children are just now spending a lot of time indoors and not really connecting with other children as much. Like if your kid's not, playing football
mm,
or has some other social outing where they have connections with peers, they don't necessarily get a lot of
mhm,
opportunity to work on social development. So there's an interest in using Lego-based therapy because it has an impact with kids
mm,
who have the most obvious social impairment, autistic children. And these are kids, a lot of the kids in the first two studies that I did um, were had language impairment.
Mm,
About half the kids in those studies had language impairment.
understood.
So these are kids who are autistic enough that they don't really care to use language.
Mm,
So with that kind of impact, a lot of people have been thinking, oh, what about kids with ADHD or behavioral problems or social cultural problems?
mhm,
They come from a broken family, they have issues at
mm,
home, they're adopted, like there's a lot of different life stressors that can impact a kid, and having Lego Club can really benefit them. So kids that are depressed, kids that are anxious,
mm,
kids that are isolated for various reasons can benefit by boosting their social exposure to peers. Of course, the issue there is that if you're going to specifically target certain populations, you should demonstrate efficacy using research.
yeah.
You know,
Mm,
and so over time, a number of studies have been coming out
mhm,
on different populations, and eh, so I think that's just a slow process. I'm pretty optimistic that if you can help kids with autism using Lego, that most kids will benefit from.
mhm. I think you talk about COVID, and now in the actually, I see a lot of childs that don't engage one each other. I think technology is a problem about socialization and how we uh, talk each other or collaborate or I don't have the word, but the change in one in a situation about people is more lonely. The people stay together, but they stay with this cell phone and interact with another people that don't stay in the place. Here in my groups, I have a box that all the childs and the young people have to left let the cell phone there because if they get in to the club with the cell phone, in some occasions they start to playing and do another things with the cell phone. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, all due respect to the software
Hmm,
engineers who design video games, they're
hmm,
obviously putting a lot of ingenuity and creativity into those products.
mhm,
The problem is that it doesn't require very much ingenuity and creativity from the child.
hmm,
And that affects kids in two ways. One is it doesn't offer them the opportunity to um, develop their own creativity. They're
hmm,
not creating the games; they're just participating in them,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
So the other problem is that when you play within a game, even if you're playing with peers, you don't have shared creativity.
yeah,
So there isn't this sense that you and your friends are accomplishing something other than in the context of something that was developed by an adult. Now, of course, Lego was created by adults. Lego also spends a lot of time and
yeah,
energy and money on product development. Um, but in that context, you are in a clear, obvious way manipulating physical objects and putting them together in collaboration with your friends to create something that didn't exist.
hmm,
When you get a Lego set and you dump the pieces out, it's a bunch of pieces. It's not the thing. So you're not creating um, anything in a video game. It's all the work's been done. All the engineering's there. You're
hmm,
just discovering someone else's ideas. You're not creating your own. And so I think that's another reason why it's important to have the levels of Lego Club. Like you start with set building, where you take someone else's idea and you participate in that idea.
mhm,
Um, but then as you get to freestyle building and stop motion animation,
mhm,
you're coming up with your own ideas. And that's really what I think is important for both individuals and for society. Is you can't just have people participating in other people's ideas. They have to have their own. They have to bring their own creativity and their own
Mm,
ideas. Otherwise, culture will stall. It won't continue to progress. There's no,
mm,
flexibility, no adaptability.
mm. Okay. It's so interesting this point you are talking about the creativity and technology, how influence in people and what will happen in the future. So now we have intelligence, artificial intelligence, sorry, that creates pictures, videos. So that's so interesting. I am fright. I have a little scare about the technology in the future, like Terminator or something. But technology, I
I,
think.
I think as artificial intelligence gains traction and we start using it in more uh, applications, what people are going to be confronted with is that machine learning or large language models
Mm-hmm.
um, need to have values. So moral values are something that um, really only humans do, because other species, they all operate on the same kind of set of values that have to do with life, right? They're alive, they participate in the system of life on this planet, and therefore they have a shared value, a shared benefit of continuing life, in every ecosystem and across ecosystems. Life is it's like, yeah, let's just keep this going, whereas machines don't care.
Yeah.
It's like money, like we have
Yeah.
systems for money, economic and financial systems, and we love them, but they don't love us back.
Yeah.
And we love technology, but it doesn't love us back.
Yeah.
Like there's no motivation or care that a machine would have for us. We care about our machines, they don't care about us. So it's not a balanced relationship. And I think that is essentially at the core of what is moral reasoning, is what is fair.
Mm,
How do we as
yeah.
humans have a fair relationship with each other? That's what underlies moral reasoning. It's like what is fair for humans. And we should also be thinking, of course, about what is fair for other species.
Yeah.
We're not very good at that, right? Humans are not very good at participating in life. So I think teaching the value of collaboration and being on the same team and fairness is
Mhm.
is a key part of uh, Lego Club. You join Lego Club
Yeah.
and you do things with your friends, and you're on the same team. You participate in something where there's a mutual benefit, and it's not just something that's marketed. It's not just something that is a technology that somebody has to pay for.
Yeah.
Um, you can do it very inexpensively. And the most important thing is that children discover the value of each other. Oh, okay, you're worth something. You're useful. You're helpful. You're creative. They discover each other.
Yeah. You are talking about the team, and that's another issue. Here in Argentina, we are very happy because Boca Juniors wins to River Plate, you know? You see
Yeah,
it, oh, the news? Okay, so we are happy. I think you are happy. You have your car.
yeah, yes. I have my scarf.
Okay. Then, are there specific age range to participate in a Lego club? Because I saw in social media people saying only child, only child, only child. A little ones talk about youngs, and nobody talks about adults.
Yeah, we have children and adolescents, but early on, I found that a lot of the kids that started in Lego Club in middle school wanted to continue to participate through high school. And then there were some that were like going off to college and still wanted to participate.
Hmm.
Um, we've also found applications by some people who heard about this method and then were working with elderly adults with like dementia or depression
Mhm.
that were
Mhm.
socially isolated. And they need something that they can engage in that helps stimulate their mental activity, and also create a social outlet. So one of the studies that's coming out with Eduardo Garamendi
Garamendi. Yeah.
uh, from Mexico City and his group is on executive functioning
Yeah.
in through improving executive functioning through Lego therapy.
Mm.
And he has a slightly modified approach in that case, what he calls Lego-based neurotherapy.
Lego
But
based
this
neurology.
is, um, a particular branch of Lego-based therapy that is, focusing on cognitive improvements more than just social. And but I think both are part of the Lego-based therapy process. Like when you do Lego therapy, it's
Yeah.
obviously a very mentally challenging activity. You need a
Yeah.
lot of attention. You need to be thinking in linear terms. You need to be able to visualize. You need to be able
Hmm.
to communicate. So there's a lot of engagement. Um, and so I think there is good reason to think that you could help adults with brain injury, adults with social isolation or depression, or other
Yeah.
kinds of mental health problems.
Hmm.
Um, and over the last 20 years, Lego has become increasingly popular with adults.
Hmm.
So it's not just a children's toy anymore. And
Yeah.
it was like the documentary film that came out over 10 years ago, the Lego Brickumentary, is about adult uses of Lego and
Hmm.
the AFOL, adult fan of Lego,
Mm.
kind of population, people out there that, it's like adults with Disney, or adults with people who play Dungeons and Dragons, or
Yeah.
adults who play video games, or, you know, there's a lot of adult fans of Lego out there. And some of them would benefit from doing it socially.
Yeah. I am one of the fan of Lego. Dan, uh, could you explain the phenomena of synergy and antergy for the people that don't know?
Okay. Yeah, synergy is a very old concept, been around for a long time. It is associated with this idea that the contribution of a diverse number of elements within a system, like
Mhm.
I'm holding up my hand because a hand is a synergistic system.
Okay.
So a hand is not just five digits. There are five different digits,
Okay.
right? And the
Yeah.
palm that collaborate together to do things that you couldn't do with just five separate
Mm-hmm.
digits. Um, and that concept applies to a lot of um, physical, chemical, biological
Mm-hmm.
phenomena. Um, and I think more relevant to this topic, a family is a synergistic
Hmm.
phenomenon. So there's people collaborate together to become a family. So there's like the individual members of something. So you have fingers and then you have a hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a hand is more than just a collection of parts, right? So the parts collaborate, they interact, and that's because my brain tells my hand what to do. There's a high level input and then
Okay.
a bottom up process
Well,
of each of the digits doing their role, contributing.
mhm.
Just like on a team, like if you have a football team,
Yeah.
the different players on the field are not just running around chasing the ball individually, they collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
And so the coach sends in information to the team has their different roles, and they engage in activity that has a mutual benefit for them and for the team. So the idea of a team, the functioning of a team comes from the agreement of the members to collaborate. What I have seen in many situations, including from biology to families to businesses to sports teams,
Mm-hmm.
um, can be that sometimes individuals on a team don't collaborate.
Yeah.
And it's not just a lack of synergy. So this you have to keep in mind that sometimes there's a motivation or an interest,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it happens in a kind of a structured way that they interfere with each other.
Mhm.
Like they have a motivation to be disruptive to each other.
Hmm.
And that's what I call antergy. It's when elements within a system over a period of time develop a pattern that is not synergistic, it's not beneficial, it's harmful.
Hmm.
And so I think the most obvious example of that is in a dysfunctional family. There are
Yeah.
members of a family who undermine each other.
Hmm.
They're bad for each other. They're toxic. They hurt each other.
Yeah.
But it keeps going. The family is still there. It doesn't dissipate. And it's
Yeah.
not just a lack of collaboration. It is a harmful thing. It's not
Huh.
just, oh, I don't care about you. It's that the relationship is based on hurting each other. So there are harmful relationships.
Mhm.
And that kind of thing is something that I think some kids experience, like kids with autism. They initially they don't get much experience of synergy, so they don't participate
Hmm.
in a classroom. They don't participate as much in their family.
Yeah.
They don't participate on a sports team, so they don't get interpersonal synergy as much. But they
Hmm.
do get antergy. They feel like people are messing with them.
Hmm.
They tell them what to do, and that's not what they want to do. And because they're not participating, other people exclude them.
Yeah.
And in some environments, like in a classroom, on the playground, in a family, you'll get these kind of long-standing dynamics of conflict and harm that need to be addressed. And the most obvious way is to get people back on the same page, back on the same team, collaborating and benefiting from that collaboration.
Yeah. When a new member joins the club, I see this you talk. The in the first sessions, the new participant want to work alone, even if they participate with me in individual sessions to know the system. But when enter the club, the first sessions or meetings want to work alone. So I learned that in the first meetings, I let construct alone and then progressively join with the other members. And always I have the oldest one that collaborate and come on, construct with me. So uh, work in that synergy because it's not so easy change the energy to synergy. It's a hard work to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's important to distinguish between a kid who's coming into a group who has not experienced synergy before and is not familiar with it. They'll be more willing and open to a kid who's really experienced antergy, like bullying or
Mm,
getting teased, picked on, excluded, actively rejected.
mm,
Um, they're going to be even harder to get them to agree because they're
yeah,
going to have had past negative experiences, like antergistic experiences. And for them, it really is important for you to prepare the group
yeah.
to welcome them
Mm,
and make them feel comfortable and welcome. Like, okay, you're part of us now, and we're going to help you learn, and to show them what they've benefited from. Like to say, okay,
yeah,
we built this. This is what we do here in Lego Club.
yeah.
So they feel like, okay, I belong here, and these are my people, and I'm safe. And I
Yes,
think
and
social safety is incredibly important for humans because we're terrible animals, right? So we don't do very well on our own. And that's something that I think a lot of people with autism um, don't recognize when they're small, but they do realize as they get older, it's like, wow, life is pretty scary if you don't have friends.
yeah, social safety is so important, and the people that have experience in bowling, when the club works, they talk about this experience. I have three cases in the time that raised their hand and let me know that they want to talk about that experience of bullying in the past. So, okay, today we don't we work with Lego. We will talk about. John will talk about his experience in the past, and all the club listen and support. That's incredible, Dan. There
Because they
is the
have
point.
shared experiences. They
Shared
have
experience.
similar, yeah, yeah. They're from the same planet. They've had those experiences.
Yeah, but it's hard to listen uh, this experience because it's teasing, it's so hard to process what these people lives in his classroom about other people, and the members uh, are so empathy with this
Yeah. Yeah,
circumstance.
I call that experience getting kicked out of the cave.
Yeah.
Like if you were like a bunch of cavemen, and you were like, I don't want to get kicked out of the cave. You get
Yeah.
kicked out of the cave, there's this feeling like, oh my God, now I'm gonna starve and then I get eaten, torn
Yeah.
apart by wild animals, right? So it's bad for you to be
Yeah.
out there by yourself. So the good news is Lego Club is another cave. You can come in.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, you got kicked out of that cave, you're welcome here.
It's a cool cave.
It's a cool cave. Yeah.
uh, how is this the synergy and the antarchy related to the concept of degrees of freedom?
Whoa, that's complicated. Yeah. Okay. So the concept of degrees of freedom has to it comes out of statistics, right? It
Yeah.
simply means unassigned variable. Like there's some variable that is part of a system
Hmm.
that doesn't have a value yet. It has to be assigned. So there has to be a decision made about what that value will be,
Hmm.
right? Like if you're going to kick a ball on the soccer field, say a football field, and you want to decide how hard you're going to kick it, which part of your foot you're going to use. Are you passing the ball? Are you just trying to get distance? You're clearing the ball. Is this a corner kick? So there's decision making about how to kick the ball that has to be made here inside your head.
Hmm.
It's not made, the decision is not made by the game. It's
Okay.
not made by the ball. It's made by you.
Yeah.
You have internal degrees of freedom. You have to assign values
Hmm.
to determine how you're going to make that movement. Now, there are other degrees of freedom that are assigned by the other players.
Hmm.
So you may be kicking the ball, then you see another player is moving, he's getting clear, right? So you're like, oh, I want to hit him with the ball. Oh, I'm gonna loft it high because I think he could get a header. So maybe he's gonna come in for a header in front of the net. So your decision making is collaborative. Like you kind of see each other and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, I could hit him with the ball, could pass the ball to him, right? If there was no other player, if you're playing kind of you're a selfish player, you don't look at the other players. The decision is just you and the ball, right?
Yeah.
So the degrees of freedom, the complexity of the decision making is increases because of the external relationships between you and other people. So when you have synergy, okay, your opportunities to use your internal degrees of freedom are multiplied. So you can do more things with your friends than you can do by yourself. So for instance, the opportunity to do stop motion animation is very time consuming,
Mm.
tedious when you're by yourself. When you have other friends in the room, then the creative process increases, more ideas. You also have more hands, more heads, more hands, more eyes, and
Mm.
new degrees of freedom are created. In synergistic dynamics, what you always see is that there's group decision making, right? So a very effective team makes decisions cohesively, like a group of people, a family, even a couple, a
Mm.
husband and wife, they have a family, they make decisions together as a family.
Mhm.
Decisions come from inside. And they collaborate on those decisions and they are able to do things they weren't able to do before. So they create new degrees of freedom. So when you create something new, it's a degree of freedom. It's a variable that has not been assigned yet. It's something new.
Mhm.
When you have antergy, you reduce the degrees of freedom, right? Because people are working against you. It's like if you're on the soccer field and someone wants to, make you look bad, they'll disappear behind the defenders and know you can't pass the ball. And now you're
Mm.
stuck with the ball. and then now the other guys are going to come take the ball from you, right?
Yeah,
So now you don't have the choice.
yeah,
You have no choice. You're standing there with the ball, and you know where nobody's open, nobody's
yeah.
helping you. Like where are we going to send the ball? You're stuck with it, right?
Yeah.
And then you lose it. So you lose degrees of freedom. The same thing happens in families, it happens in classrooms. When people work against you, they shrink your opportunities, they shrink your degrees of freedom to choose,
Mhm.
to make decisions that are going to be creative or productive.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a last question. It's a largest one. Um, what would you say about approach that try to promote LBT from a purely behavioral perspective, or that aim to sell it but making claims unrelated to the actual principles of LBT? It's the largest one.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, that's fairly simple for me because
Okay.
Lego-based therapy really is based on this idea of um, emergent causation or relational causation, right? So things um, become what they are because of the relationship between individuals. So the relationship between the children is what results in the the club. So a club is a collection of children who are working together. Um, this concept doesn't exist in behaviorism. Behaviorism is a reductionistic model that focuses on the rewards and punishments, the experience, the learning experience of individuals. There's no way to conceptualize that. Now, you can have shared experience, but you can't have emergent outcomes, creativity, innovation, new degrees of freedom. Does
Mm,
not That concept does not exist because the behaviorist point of view is ultimately um, a deterministic one. So it's reductionistic, which means it reduces all motives down to rewards and punishments.
mhm,
And it's deterministic in that it presumes that the external environment tells us how to behave, like our past experiences as well as our current experiences determine our behavior, which is wrong. What determines our behavior is our decisions internally. We
mm,
choose what to do. Um, so I think the behavioral model is theoretically incompatible, but it's also practically incompatible because just like we were talking about video games, where
mhm,
the engineering and the design and the creativity is done by an engineer at a software company. And in behaviorism, you have a plan and you're imposing that plan on the child. And you're
mm,
basically helping them to do what you think they should do. You're not letting them find their own way.
mhm,
So, especially not with groups of children. Groups of children create something new that didn't exist before. Just like when you put Lego sets together, you're following a model, but then you become good at freestyle. You create something that is new, unique to you, and then you collaborate with friends, and then now you've created something that's unique to you as a team. It's
mhm.
us. We did this. Look what we did. So this experience of collaboration doesn't necessarily have a reward. It isn't because
Yeah,
you're getting something from it. It isn't you do this in order to get something. It's a collaborative process that's natural to human development. And behaviorism is a bad way of thinking about children.
mm,
It's a limited, short-sighted theory about child development that doesn't
mm,
work. This doesn't
mm.
explain human development.
You explain this point in your book. Autistic is not being autistic is not a behavior problem. I think there's
Well,
the
yeah, there's more to it than that. I mean, obviously, applied behavior analysis, at least in this country, the United States, has
hmm
become a very, very large um, market, and it's not either. It's not scientifically or clinically honest.
hmm
Uh, they are not honest about the basis for their model. They're not honest about the history of ABA. That it came from, Skinner and rats and pigeons, and then, quickly
yeah.
graduated to being a kind of dehumanizing
Hmm.
approach to individuals and to children. So there's a long history to ABA that most people don't know about because they don't advertise it. People don't tell you. Like, I'm very open about how the Lego Club happened and what the ideas are behind it. Most people with their applied behavior analysis, they don't tell people that ABA came from Skinner and Charles Forster and people like that who were very dehumanizing and uh, reductionistic and deterministic. Like, it's a very ugly theory, and it's based on a premise that Skinner had, that there's no such thing as free will. Like, most people, if you tell them there's no such thing as free will disagree with you. And it makes sense. Like, even the great American psychologist William James said, "My first act of free will be to believe in free will. I choose to believe in free will. I believe that I get to make my own decisions." And I've often used the example of Nikolai Bernstein as a scientist who studied human movement, who showed that yes, the movements have to come from inside here first. The, outside circumstances cannot determine our behavior. They have to be determined by the organism, which that idea is incompatible with behaviorism. But behaviorism is kind of glosses over that. They pretend that's not true. And they pretend that they're like aligned with people like Lev Vygotsky. And Vygotsky would be spinning in his grave. Of course, he doesn't. Like, Vygotsky's theory is completely incompatible with behaviorism.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But I think ABA is not a legit model. I think it's pseudoscience. And I think a lot of it is corrupt. It's very, very lucrative. They make a ton of money doing this kind of stuff. They don't show good benefits. They don't really demonstrate changes in meaningful human behavior, just compliance. And they charge a ton of money. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
I think there's reasons why it's still around, but they're not scientific reasons and they're not clinical reasons. They're financial reasons.
Yes, they have a lot of resources, and there is a big industry. I know in the United States.
Over $50 billion a
Oh,
year industry.
it's a lot of money.
Yes.
Dan, there is something you want to add or say to conclude this interview, something that I don't ask to you?
Um, no, but I would say that over the years, in addition to the evidence that has accrued about um, the method of Lego-based therapy and
Mm,
its benefit, um, the other part I think is very important, and I want to try to, in the remaining parts of my career, really try to emphasize this, which is the professional development.
mm,
People like you are so reassuring because um, when you when you get together with a bunch of people who understand Lego-based
mm,
therapy the way it's supposed to be done and share this idea, inevitably you wind up talking to people who have good values and good
mm,
moral reasoning, good, a good understanding of children. So so that's been really reassuring to me, is that when I meet other people who like the idea of Lego-based therapy, they're usually really good people. They're really nice, and caring, and helpful. If you get Lego-based therapy, it says something good about you.
mm,
So I think it's partly that it comes sincerely from the children. I think
mm,
it's a recognition that child development emerges from children. And if you accept that basic premise, it's not like that we impose ourselves on children. That is an aggressive thing. Like,
mm,
you're going to do it my way. If you
mm,
take that stance with children, you're never going to succeed.
yeah.
Certainly not as a therapist. Maybe as a policeman or something, but not as a
Okay.
therapist. So I think people who understand the therapeutic benefit of this, kind of relationship we have with
Mhm,
people, which is to help them become a better version of themselves,
mhm,
become more effective, to internalize more degrees of freedom, have more choices, be able to make more powerful decisions, contribute more to society, that you need to let them grow. Otherwise, it's like people that think they're great gardeners and they kill all their plants because they fuss with them too much.
mm,
They don't let them grow. And I think that's what Lego Club is. It's an opportunity for children to grow. Um, And I think the same thing professionally.
Mm.
I think it's an opportunity for other professionals to grow.
Thank you. That was excellent. I think it's the best conclusion about Lego-based therapy. Thank you for lying about me for the good people. No, Dan, I'm so happy to talk with you to share ideas about this approach. I love, when I met the Leo-based therapy with you 9 years ago, when I go with Maria and Lorena and say, please, please, Dan, let me into your course because I get late to inscription. And you say, yes, you can participate, of course. There is changed my world. So I want to thank you because you bring me the door. You opened the door to this new world and changed my idea, my perspective about autism, about how we can learn about the group and the group benefit about our knowledge about development, socialization, and now are 9 years about uh, this work in Leo-based therapy. So thank you. It's all I can say for you. And thank you too for the this space to the interview, your time. I know
Yeah.
you are so busy working there. So thank you. I
Yeah,
will.
you just
Oh, the picture.
that's there. It's
You have
always
it
there.
there. Okay. I will send you empanadas. But you have to share with
I think
Christine.
we have empanadas somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, I think.
Not as good as they are down there. And the ultimate empanadas are in Buenos Aires.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Dan. I will stop the record there.